Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Hey, I want to share with you something I learned accidentally when I was in my mid-20s, before I even got married. Interesting story. I used to do some architectural metal refinishing for a living, and that means I would go into hotels and I would refinish bronze or stainless steel or any of these architectural metals that were on elevators or escalators. Well, I was one of very few people that did that, so I got a chance to go to Hawaii for 50 days to refinish all the bronze in the Westin Maui. What a great experience that was for me. But one of the things that I brought away from it that was even more powerful was a principle I learned. And I named it the covet principle. And let me explain. So when I was about to fly to Hawaii, it turns out I had to fly and do some work in Boston prior to going to Hawaii. And I had to fly from Boston to Chicago and then Chicago nonstop to Hawaii. And if you've ever flown a long distance, you know it's kind of boring. Well, before I left, I asked a friend of mine who worked at a bookstore to get me an interesting book because I wanted something that I could read while I flew. Well, she grabbed me a horror book, which I am not a fan of. Horror reminds me of when I was a kid. The feelings remind me of when I was a kid and I was running for my life. So I don't like horror books, but this one was a good one. And the more I read, the more engaged I got. And it was called The Silence of the Lambs. Yeah, you've probably heard of it. They made it into a movie a few years later. It's a great movie. But one of the things that really interested me was that there was an FBI agent, a young lady who was trying to investigate this series of murders, and they really had no good leads. And so they went and had her go and talk to a psychological genius that was in prison. And he wanted to keep her around, and so he would never give her a lot of information, but he would feed her tidbits of information so that she would keep coming back and stay engaged with him. And at one point, he said to her something that struck me. He said, in trying to discover where this person might live, this killer who had killed multiple people, the guy in prison said, "We covet the things we see the most." And turns out he was right. The very first killing was near his home, and it was somebody he had watched on a regular basis. But that really doesn't matter. What matters to me is we covet the things we see the most. And I've seen this happen in my life multiple times. You know, there was a time when I needed to get a new car, and just so happens I picked out one that I really liked. It turns out it was very similar to a couple of cars in my neighborhood and a couple of cars near my work. And I had seen these cars and I liked them, and I guess I was coveting the things I saw the most, right? Well, here's how this applies to you, and here's why this is great news. If you're watching my videos, then hopefully you're coveting the happiness and the joy and the experiences I have in my family. I talked to a lady today named Susan, and she does a lot of research and is all over the internet looking for things too. And she made a claim, I'm not sure I agree with this, that I was one of the only ones who always had an uplifting message or shared happiness and joy. I don't go down these rabbit holes of stress and strain and pain, because I really don't do that, because I don't want to do that, first of all. Second of all, that's not really who I am at my core, and that's not what our family is. Well, she made a real serious connection with what we do, because she is striving and coveting a happy, thriving home like the ones that we live in right now. So, good news is, if you're watching our videos very consistently, then you're coveting the right things. I'm not sure covet is the right word, but it's a very powerful word. And if you want happiness and joy in your home, we have become, our family and what we do, our program in the Insiders Group, has become the go-to for families that are finally ready to thrive. So that's good news. The better news is, up until recently, I've had very limited ability to serve many families because it's just hard for me to do it because, there's so many families and it takes so much of my time. And so I'm putting together a program right now that it's going to allow me to extend myself and stretch and help more families. And I'm really excited about that. It's going to give the opportunity for more families to join us. We're going to start doing mastermind online sessions, which is where we have a lot of people come on and have basically a face-to-face webinar with multiple people who all believe in the same things we believe in, which is it's up to us to thrive in our families and to give our kids homes where they're happy and where we're happy to have them, and where we take the stress and strain and we flip it on its head and we turn it and we lower that stress and strain so that there's room for more happiness and more joy in our homes. So remember that term. We covet the things we see the most. If you're following or running down paths where you see struggling families that are on the autism paths, and you're watching that and reading that, it may be running you down a path that's not good for you. Maybe you're getting connection, but we want you to thrive. We want you to feel what we feel. We know how it feels to struggle, and we know how it feels to thrive, and that's what we want for you. So click on the link if you're interested. You can see kind of how to join us and talk to us. We want for you what we have. If you're coveting what we have, that's great, and you're in the right place. Join us and see if we can't all thrive together as an autism community. That's what our kids deserve. That's what our families deserve. That's what you deserve. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.